Hi, this is Beth Beard from MyLittleCraftBlog.com, and today we're going to be making this little Halloween box. And this little lid, or this little handle right here, if you pull up on it, that's how the box opens. And as you can see, I've got this one filled with some treats. It's a pretty good size box, so it'll hold quite a few. It actually measures 3 by 3, and I believe it's 1.5 inches wide. So the first thing I have here is a piece of basic black cardstock that measures 9.5 by 6.5. And we're going to score this. So in the portrait position, we're going to score this at 1.5 inches, 4.5, and 6 inches. And then we're going to turn it into the landscape position, and we're going to score it at 3 inches, 4.5, 7.5, and 9. And now we're going to fold on the score lines. Okay, now what I'm going to call is the right side of the paper is, on this side you've got a 1/2 inch flap right here. And then you've got another one up here at the top. So this is the way you want to hold your paper. So I'm going to take my paper snips, and down this side is your 1/2 inch score mark, and then your 4.5 inch score mark. We're going to cut on these lines all the way up into that intersecting score line. Okay, so this flap right here, we're going to cut this one off altogether. And this next flap here, let me fold these back so you can see which one I'm talking about. This one we cut off, so this is the next one. What I'm going to do, and I'm just eyeballing it, I'm going to cut it off about right in the middle. This next flap we're going to skip. And this one up here we're going to do the same thing too that we did here. I'm just going to eyeball it and cut it roughly about right in the center. And then this little flap up here at the top, we're going to snip that off. So then the right side now should look like this. So now moving over onto this side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make cuts all along this score line up into this intersecting score line. And this flap we're going to leave alone. This one we're going to do like we did on this side. We're just going to cut it about in the center. This one we're going to skip. This one up here we're going to do the same thing as we did down here. Just cut it roughly in the center, and then this last flap up here at the top, that gets cut off. So now it'll look like that. And these flaps that we cut in half are actually going to be the flaps that go inside the box. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to fold this one in, and we're going to put sticky strip along this one. And this flap down here, right along here, we're going to put a piece. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to taper all of these flaps. We're going to skip this one that we just put the sticky strip on, and we'll do this one. And I don't take off much, I just taper it just a little bit, just a sliver. And we'll do all of these. This end flap that has the sticky strip on, we're going to skip that. We'll turn it around and do the other side. This one we're going to do. This one we're going to skip. This is actually going to be the lid of our box, but what I am going to do is I'm going to take my corner rounder and we're going to round those corners. And what I'm also going to do is right here on this score line, I'm going to make a very tiny cut on it, maybe about 1/8 of an inch on both sides. Not very much at all. And then this last flap right here, we'll taper those. Okay, so now it should look like that. For those of you that know me, I always like to decorate my boxes before I assemble them. I find it much easier to put the decorations on beforehand. So I'm going to turn it over. Now I've cut 2 pieces of pumpkin pie cardstock that measures 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And I've got 2 more pieces here that measure 1 3/8 by 2 3/4. And then for the lid, I've got another piece that measures 1 3/8 by 2 3/4. So actually you're going to have 3 of those. Then for the Designer Series paper, I'm using the Witch's Brew Designer Series paper from Stampin' Up! And it's from the holiday catalog, and I'm using the stripe pattern. And these 2 pieces measure 2 5/8 by 2 5/8, and they'll get layered on top of these. I've got 2 more pieces for the sides of our box, and these measure 1 1/4 by 2 5/8, and these will get layered on top of there. And then I have another piece that measures 1 1/4 by 2 5/8. But the reason this one's different is because I cut the stripes going this way, because my box is up and down. I wanted the stripes, and then for the lid I wanted the stripes going the other way, and then that gets layered on top of it. Okay, now we'll attach our pieces to our box because it's so much easier to do it before we assemble it. Now this piece here, you'll notice it's the same size as these, but since I'm using the stripe, again, I cut this one for the stripes to go this way because this is the lid of our box, so that'll get attached there. So let's go ahead and attach all of these pieces. We'll do Okay, now we'll flip it over and we'll assemble it. We'll remove the red backing and we'll line up these edges. Get it back in the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. So we'll flip it over. This is the bottom. So we'll put in the side panels first. And then this is the panel where we tapered the edges. That'll go down. And then we'll remove the sticky strip from this one. And then for the top of our box, these panels go in. Goes together like that. Now to make it a little bit easier to open it, what I've done is put a handle on it. And I've used some pumpkin pie ribbon and my Crop-A-Dile. So all I'm going to do, and I'm going to eyeball this. I know the outside is 3 inches wide, so I'm just going to eyeball 1.5 inches and punch a hole. And then I'm going to take a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock, roughly 8 inches. Let me taper those edges. I find it much easier if I taper these, they'll go through the hole much easier. Okay, so I'm just feeding that through. Get ready to pull on this. I'm afraid that I'm going to pull it all the way out, so all I do is stick a marker and then pull it tight just to hold it in place while I tie a knot on the inside. Now before I pull this too tight, I want to pull this out gently just to get an idea, just to eyeball how long I want this to be. So I think that looks about right. So I'll pull that out, and then I'll pull on the back side to tighten my knot and trim those edges. And there's a little handle. Now we'll decorate the front. The stamp set I'm using is called Halloween Bash. This is what it looks like. Sorry for the glare. And this is a stamp set we'll be using today. So I've just taken a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to take some pumpkin pie ink. And to get this effect right here, you could use your black Stampin' Write marker, but I find it easier just to use my StazOn pad. All I'm going to do is, I know that I want the bottom half where it says Halloween black, so I'll turn this over and just sort of eyeball it. And then do the same for the upper part of the stamp. I'm just hitting it with the edge of the black StazOn. So since I stamped it on a sheet of Whisper White cardstock that's bigger than what we actually need, I'll get my paper trimmer back out, and we're going to cut this down. Okay, so now I have my image cut down, and I'm going to mount this on a piece of basic black cardstock. Once you cut it down, you might have to adjust the size of your cardstock, but this measures 2 5/8 by 1 7/8, and this measures 2 1/2 by 1 3/4. So I'll just layer those two. And now we're going to make the little orange banner. So I've just got a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock, measures 3/4 inches wide. It doesn't matter how long it is. I'm going to take some Versamark, and then I'm going to dip it in my heat and stick powder. And instead of sprinkling it on there, I'm just going to dip it down inside the jar. And then we'll heat that to melt it. And then I've got some orange Stampin' Glitter. And I'm just going to put that down inside there, make sure it's well coated. And then I like to hit it one more time with the heat. Now to make the banner on the end, I'm just going to stick it in a square punch. And then we'll snip this off. And we'll attach it to the back of our tag. Flip it over, add some dimensionals. Attach it to the front of our box. And there you have it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Bye.